Grit and grace makes a man a worker. Skill and talent makes a man a craftsman. Honor and courage makes a man a soldier. Luck and charm makes a man a king. General Tan Yu, 1955. The Science of Warfare. English translation. Counselor meeting. A muffled banging could be heard from the counselor's office as Amanda opened it with a knock. Hello? You wanted to see me? Oh yes, Miss Susu. Come in, an older woman said as she fiddled with a coffee machine. I'm just trying to get this cursed thing to run. Is it broken? Amanda asked, examining the machine. It was an old model, but the rusty edges were authentic. Oh no, it just works when it wants to work. My needs be damned, the counselor said with a light laugh. Amanda snapped her fingers, shaping the forces of the universe itself, and the coffee maker lit up and started to crackle, dripping drops of dark brew. Oh, there it goes. The counselor looked to Amanda, who gave a shallow showman's bow. Was that you? The counselor pointed a thumb over her shoulder. You're welcome. Amanda straightened and smirked. Amazing what's possible with a bit of luck. Right. You control luck. On a significant scale, too, correct? Oh, no, not at all. Parlor tricks at most. Amanda waved her off as she downplayed her powers. In truth, she could cause entire buildings to collapse under the right conditions, if she focused hard enough, and they were rickety enough. All I did was tilt the odds a bit. Now, was there something you needed, Miss? Oh, V. Just V, she said, taking a seat behind the desk. I'm the counselor here at West High. Please, take a seat. I would hope you're the counselor, since this is the counselor's office, and that's the counselor's desk, Amanda remarked back as she sat across from V. Shoddy work if the school would allow imposters to roam around. Yes, true, V chuckled as she rubbed the back of her neck. I asked you here today because I wanted to talk to you. Am I that popular? Amanda said as she took a seat. No, I don't know. V stumbled as she tried to correct herself. I just wanted to see how you're doing. I'm Aces. Why would you think otherwise? Oh no, I'm not assuming anything, V emphasized. Just wanting to check on you. Well, like I said, I'm Aces. I'm making B's in all my classes, I have a great friend group, and my home life is just fine. Amanda counted off on her fingers. Everything is great. Your home life? You live with your grandmother, right? V said, opening a drawer and pulling out a folder. Yes, she's very kind and loving and feeds me well and gives me a reasonable degree of privacy. Your friends as in your team? V set the folder open on the desk and thumbed through documents. Primarily, yes, but I'm on good terms with my whole class. I might get into a catfight with some of the other girls, but it's all in good sport. And you're passing all your classes? V scanned the lines with the tip of her finger. Sure am. I study regularly and do my best on every test. I'm not the top of the class by far, but I have a good average overall. Everything is good? V looked up to Amanda's calm, smirking expression. I have nothing to complain about. And you're happy with that? Amanda shrugged. Why wouldn't I be? You don't feel cheated or deprived of anything in your life? Amanda laughed. Of course not. How could I? I get everything I want. I need only snap my fingers and everything falls exactly into place. If possible, V said. You can't make the impossible happen. Only change what is out of what can be. You made the coffee maker work. But if I had unplugged it, you couldn't do anything to make it run. Not quite, Amanda said with a smirk. True, it would be impossible to make it run while unplugged, but then I would just simply need to plug it in. I can't make the impossible happen through luck, but then I need only make it possible through action. I see. Interesting. Miss V pulled the folder out and opened it. I understand this isn't a hereditary thing, a blessing passed down from mother to daughter. Amanda shifted in her seat and twirled a lock of hair around one finger. Yes, my mother and grandmother were both blessed by the jade heaven's favor, or something like that. Some old folklore from China. You don't know? Not fully. My mother and grandmother died before they could tell me about it. Your grandmother is dead? The one you live with? Amanda chuckled a laugh. Oh, no! I live with my father's mother. The rest of my family has passed on. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Amanda bowed her head to V. Thank you. I was quite young when they passed, but I do still miss them. Does your grandmother not know about the blessing? No, not really. It's not a big secret or anything. I could easily find everything I want to know about it with a little snap of my fingers. I just don't care about it enough. Maybe in the future when I have my own daughter. I see. And you said earlier you get along with your team well enough? Amanda clapped her hands together and smiled. Oh, yes! I couldn't ask for a better team. You couldn't? Nope. I got the perfect group. Brick and Samantha are the sweetest, and between York and Abraham, we have nearly all the knowledge in the universe available to us. Alice is a gem in every way, and with Jerry leading us, why, we're almost unstoppable. Wow. Do you think your team is above and beyond the other teams of your class? Amanda waved her hands. Oh no. The others aren't pushovers. We couldn't overpower any other team head on, but we have quite the roster of tricks available to us. Such as not fighting in the first place. Jerry usually knows if we're beat, so we usually just avoid those fights. Oh, I guess that's one way to stay on top. You said you get into catfights with other girls? Oh yeah, sometime I tease the others. Like Melissa? Oh no, Melissa would be throwing punches at the drop of the hat. But I usually can get a sideline on Ashley or the Jessicas. Ashley Smith, the one on Adrian's team? Amanda smiled. Oh yes, and speaking of Adrian, I just love sitting next to him. He is a treat. And why is that? Amanda's grin grew as she leaned forward. Big, dumb, and dense. He's always good for a laugh. Don't get me wrong, boy got instincts, but he's just so easy to get the angle on. Oh? How so? Well, for example, Amanda started a story from a few days ago. I was heading back home after a morning working the payphones. If you don't use all your time, the rest of it gets credited into the machine's backlog. It's only pennies worth, but due to some oversight, if you press and hold the return coins button, it starts adding them together, or something. And you can get quarters. 5 minutes usually clears the booth, so it doesn't take much time to hit a dozen or so booths. I hit a few jackpots, lucky, and cashed in for treats, a squad's worth of candies. You stole from payphones for candy? V asked, raising an eyebrow. It's not stealing, Amanda mock swooned. Why, it's no different than picking up coins off the sidewalk, which I also found plenty of. Using your powers to make others lose money, wouldn't that count? Maybe, but I can't make people lose money. Not normally, at least. I cause good luck only. Losing money is normally bad luck. I just luck into right places at right times. One man's fortune is another man's misery. Well, I'm a girl. Anyhow, I was skipping along when I saw him. Adrian Priest in the nicest get-up I could imagine, and only because I saw it. He was in slacks and a button-down, still wearing those gaudy shades of his, but still nice all around. So I go up to him and I say, Wow, I seen them dress monkeys up before, but this is impressive. And he turns to look at me and scowls at me, saying, What are you doing here? Selling feng shui charms? Feng shui charms? V repeated. Because I'm Chinese, and they do feng shui. Yes, but feng shui is about moving furniture around. It doesn't have charms. Amanda shrugged. Tell that to Adrian. So after that I tell him, Come on, Adrian, I'm just saying hi to be a friend. If anything, I should ask what you're doing here. He just gruffs out, None of your business. Which was as much as I was expecting from him. But then, lo and behold, a woman walks up asking, Adrian, who are you talking to? No one, Ma, Adrian answered, revealing her identity. Just one of my pain-in-the-ass classmates. Oh, are they friends of yours? His mother asked with a sincere smile, which says a lot about Adrian. Not really. We're just in the same class. And that's when the cutest little boy in the cutest little get-up comes up pointing a finger at me and asks in the angriest little voice, "You're not the bitch who beat my high score, are you?" Now, Mama Priest and Adrian were both telling him to watch his language, albeit for different reasons. But I can't help myself. I squeal like a girl half my age and grab his little doughy face. "Oh my gosh, you must be Ambrose, you are so adorable!" He starts to squirm and struggle, crying, "Let me go, that hurts!" Adrian just laughed. "I told you, little brother, don't start fights you can't win." Ignoring the hypocrisy of Adrian's advice, I let the boy go and turned back to his mom. So why do the great task of making Adrian presentable? Today was a special day at church. One of our neighbors was getting baptized. They wanted Adrian to be all fancy for that? Well, she paused like when the teacher tries to spin a critique. I just didn't want us to stand out. It was their day, not ours. I looked at Adrian and signaled the question. They were mundanes, weren't they? And Adrian signaled back a very disgruntled yes. Wait, signaled? Like signing? V asked, confused. Amanda smiled and waved a hand. Oh no, not actual sign language. Just those little gestures that like-minded people developed. Like between us girls. You know what I mean. Us demi-humans have something similar. At least when it comes to talking about mundanes. Oh, I see. V rubbed her chin before asking, "Do you have anything against mundanes?" Amanda raised a finger and said with disdain, "Not at all. I hold no ill will to any kind of people. Not the Slavs who chased my ancestors out of North China, nor the Buddhists who exiled my grandparents to California, or even the mutants who destroyed their business and forced them to immigrate across the continent." Well, that's good. Amanda smirked and continued. Now Adrian, on the other hand, seems like he has something against everyone. I had just confirmed Adrian's signal and thought how to use the situation to my entertainment. And I thought to myself, hey now, I bet Adrian hates wearing that get-up. So let's extend this trip. So what are you shopping for? Got any big plans? I asked nonchalantly. Oh no, just groceries, Mama Priest said, happy to change the subject. Yeah, we're just about done, Adrian butted in. So beat it. Yeah, Ambrose shouted, mimicking his brother, and I had to fight the urge to squeal again. Oh, come now. You know, this is a great opportunity for us to bond, Adrian. Let me share some original Chinese recipes. I offer and watch the scowl grow on his face as I pull out a notepad and pen. Best part, they're cheap and easy to make. Their mom tried to turn me down, but before she could, I was ripping out a list of ingredients and handing them over. I'll even pay for anything extra. Wait, V interrupted again. You paid for extra groceries? On top of spending the afternoon shopping? Just to annoy Adrian? Amanda fainted a blush. Also, I gave Ambrose some candy to hold him over until lunch. But yes, it was hilarious watching him get madder as I kept finding one more thing we just had to get. And what could he do? Yell at me? In front of his own mother? We actually spent the whole afternoon shopping. And all it cost me was a week's allowance and the rest of my score. But it was worth it to see the smiles on Ambrose and their mother right next to his gritting teeth. Amanda giggled at the memory for a while before taking a deep breath. Adrian was a good sport about it. Even thanked me for the recipes and everything. Though he did punctuate the thanks with a rather nasty insult. But that's Adrian. You seem to hold some respect for him, V noted. It's my understanding that Adrian is something of a bully. Amanda nodded in agreement. Oh yes, very much so. But he's not some brutish thug just picking on those weaker than him. He faces the trouble he invites head on, and takes his licks fair and square. Even with Miss Bell? V asked, and Amanda looked away at that. Gwen is different, because she's a fairy. Amanda pointed a finger in the air and corrected, half fairy. But yes, Adrian has something extra against fairies. But Gwen is tougher than she seems. I should know. I saw her in full action in person. Oh, really? V laced her fingers together and leaned forward. You mean Gwendolyn is hiding her power level? That's one way to put it. How do you know? Amanda leaned forward herself. Well, this was a little bit after the disaster at the KK concert. I had caught a train down to the Virginia state border. During the chaos of the Hellhound attack, I had almost nothing to fight with. I was pumping out luck as much as possible, but that was such a passive role. So I figured I should expand my roster and work on a few Chinese secrets my family had passed down. Of course, those secrets were made in China with Chinese vegetation, but adaptation is a constant in victory. So I figured I would go down and see what I could adapt. So I picked a random forest and walked down some random paths and hoped I got lucky. That sounds incredibly dangerous, V snapped out in complete shock. Smiling and nodding, Amanda agreed. Oh yes, it is. Incredibly dangerous. But I had luck on my side, you see. And also a cell phone. The forest was in signal range. I checked. Oh, okay. V seemed to relax a bit at that. But still, walking alone in the middle of the forest is not something one should casually practice. Well, luckily, Amanda paused. Get it? I wasn't alone for long. I was scouting and surveying the area around the path when I turned a bend and saw two figures. A pair of blonde-headed girls in simple dresses and flowers in their hair. One floral set being very familiar. Gwendolyn, is that you? I asked, not thinking about it, and they both looked at me. It was definitely Gwen. They were kneeling in front of a flower bush, and spotting me, they stood up. Amanda, what are you doing out here? I could ask you that. I counter. Quite the way from home, aren't you? My mom was all she could say before her mom cut her off. You don't have to answer that, she said, putting a hand out to block Gwen, and looked directly at me, with an incredibly calm expression. Why have you followed us here? I noted the loaded hook in their question, and so I explained it directly. I didn't. I was wandering around, working on my own project, and I just found you here. I showed her my book and everything, but a line of suspicion went through her face. And you just found us by chance? By my own supply of chance, yes. I assumed she didn't know how to take that, because her suspicion didn't lit up until Gwen stepped past her hand. Mama, it's okay. This is Amanda. She controls luck. Now I know what you're thinking. She just revealed my deal. Just out in the open. I should have been mad. But she was telling her mother, who could have possibly turned me into a bonsai tree and be done with me, so I stayed quiet as she spoke. So you're not one of the brutes who has been bullying my daughter? She asked, and I could see her watching my face. Oh no, ma'am. I admire Gwen a lot, actually. She moves with such grace, it can't be hidden, even as she tries. This seemed to get her to relax. Her face returned to a neutral expression. I see. Well then, you are welcome to join us if it is warranted. I was giving my daughter a lesson in foraging. For survival? I asked, walking closer. Yes, as well as crafting. Fantastic! We can share secrets, I said, lifting my book to show pages of various drawings and writing. She squinted her eyes and scanned the pages. I don't recognize any of this. Well, the writing is Chinese, obviously, and the pictures are of plants and fungi native to China. I'm trying to find possible substitutes. Oh, well, I'm sure I could help, she said, and actually smiled. It was the softest, most inviting smile I've ever seen. She took a step back and curtsied. My name is Zelda. Zelda Bell. I tucked my book under my arm and curtsied as well, saying, "And I'm Amanda. Amanda Susu. Thank you for this opportunity." Which apparently was the magic words, because she seemed to completely accept me. She guided Gwen and I through the forest, teaching us about all kinds of flowers and berries and even tree bark. I went over my book translating what I could into English and explaining what didn't pass over the language barrier so easily. It worked well, too. I even managed to teach Gwen to speak a bit of Chinese. Just a few things. Hello, goodbye, and we are friends. I'm sorry. V spoke up again. This is a great testimony to Gwen's character, but how does this relate to her physical prowess? Amanda rolled her eyes at the question. I haven't gotten to that part yet. But for one thing, she can fly. Had to float up to a few high branches. Oh, well, I knew Gwen was capable of flight, V said, pulling open a drawer and taking out a file labeled as Gwen's. But that's not really a big secret. Well, Amanda rolled her whole body indignantly. I didn't know she could. And I definitely didn't know she could snipe an arrow over 100 yards. What? V jumped in her seat. 100 yards? More, actually, Amanda gibbed. And on a moving target to boot. What happened? When did she shoot an arrow? What did she shoot? V shot off in rapid succession as Amanda just sat there grinning. When V showed annoyance on her face, Amanda finally spoke. This was all at the end of the lesson. The sky was turning orange and we were all getting tired. I know my feet were ready for a bath, and from how Gwen rubbed her shoulders, her wings would probably agree. They're so pretty. Her wings, I don't know why she hides them. This was a lovely evening, Miss Zelda said. I'm glad we had the good fortune to cross paths with you. Of course, I agreed with my own smile. I'm glad I had the good fortune to be in the same class as your daughter. This was the general tone as we made our way back, mostly Miss Zelda comparing notes and complimenting our know-how. Gwen seemed content with getting the day over with, but even wells of magic luck ran out eventually, because in about the last mile before the wood line, we were attacked by goblins. A dozen of them flew out of the brush, and all pulled long knives. Give us all you got, or lose all you have, was the assumed leader's demand. Now, I wasn't worried. I'd been practicing melee combat with Jerry for a few weeks at the time, so after trading insults and threats, I managed to bait them into attacking. Wait, what all did you say? V asked at the skimming of details. Amanda just rolled her eyes. I don't know. We weren't reading off a script. I called them ugly, they called me fat, I told them we weren't scared, and they didn't believe us. Eventually one of them jumped at me, and I slugged them with my knuckles. You punched him? Barehanded? V seemed to be amazed, which made the correction from Amanda sound disappointing. No, knuckles. As in iron knuckles? I never leave home without them. Never? Amanda raised a fist now donned in a slab of metal covering her fingers. Never. And I also have a pair of silver knuckles, but those are for special occasions. And we were holding our own. Gwen's mom was really strong. It took about a full 10 minutes to get them to stop fighting, and we weren't even trying to kill them, and lucky them for that, because Miss Zelda was blasting them into trees with such ease that I doubt I was actually protecting myself. Between her throwing them around and Gwen summoning vines to tie them down, and me leaving blister burns for my iron knuckles, they eventually stopped. Banebringer, one of them cried. Why? This is not allowed. Humans swear to no have the bane. I lifted his face and looked him in the eye. Iron weapons for self-defense are perfectly legal. I dropped his head and he just kept weeping. The bane. It burned so foul. Why, Banebringer? I wouldn't have to if you didn't try to steal my stuff, I said, lifting my basket up to show. And that's when it happened. Out of nowhere, another goblin riding on an eagle swooped down and grabbed my basket. The basket in which I was carrying the many pickings we pulled today, which I didn't actually care about. and my family's book of secrets, which I did care very much about. I immediately turned to Gwen's mom and begged, "Miss Bell, that book was from my mom. Please, we have to do something." The book was a family heirloom, 1,000 years old. So I admit I lost my cool, but I snapped back when Gwen jumped into action. "I got it!" she yelled, flying up, sporting a bow and arrow I had never seen before, and fired a single shot. A moment of silence passed before Gwen smiled and announced, "Direct hit!" I was ecstatic, cheering even, as we ran through the woods to find the Rider Goblin hobbling away with my basket. I gave him a thorough stumping and took my book back, and Gwen took the eagle to nurse it back to health. I didn't take a measurement, but I felt like the run was at least a full rugby field in length, so quite the long shot for my overly shy friend. "Okay, that sounds impressive," V said, writing down a note. She pointed the pen at Amanda. "But why weren't we told about this? The school, I mean. We're supposed to look out for our student body." Amanda just shrugged. "Well, no harm, no foul. I got my book back and Gwen's mom was already there, so you know." "I guess so." V tapped the pen on her lips as she thought about it. Amanda raised one finger. "Also, I would appreciate it if this didn't become common knowledge, especially to Adrian. If he caught a whip of boldness off Gwen, it would be a whole thing." "You think so?" "I know so. Half the class would end up fighting it out." "Why's that? Why would they care enough to fight?" "Various reasons. Some because Gwen is a friend, and some because they hate Adrian, and some because they hold a strong sense of morals." "Do you know who is who?" "Some. I know Simmy and Brick would stand up for Gwen. The sorority four, Melissa, Ginny, and the Jessicas, would stand against Adrian. Vlad would never start a fight, but he wouldn't allow any cruelty to stand. But the biggest pressure would, believe it or not, come from Frank." "Frank? Francis Paris? The demigod? Of Aphrodite? The love goddess?" V asked. Amanda answered, "Yep, that's him. He doesn't seem like much. A bit scrawny and more goofy than smart. But that boy has a strong fire in him. The way I say it, we see him as a warm campfire, nice and inviting. But he can also be a roaring forest fire, or a powerful engine inferno under the right conditions. And I've seen them." "Really? When?" V asked, and Amanda started another story. We had just finished one of our Saturday training sessions. Jerry had sent off Samantha and Alice to the arcade for one-on-one team building, and I had the rest of the afternoon free. I decided to go see a movie. Even invited Jerry, but he passed. So there I was skipping along my merry way, when suddenly, out of an alleyway comes a bolt of fire. Luckily, I wasn't in the way when it flew by, but that meant I had to lean over into the alley to see what the deal was, which turned out to be Frank and Ishtar fighting off some somethings. No idea what they were, but I assumed they were non-human, because both Frank and Ishtar were cutting them down ruthlessly, with Frank stabbing and slicing and Ishtar blasting fire to corral them into Frank's sword and keep them from surrounding the two boys. Now, I was still far from experienced in non-mundane combat at the time, but I had developed just a few tricks to get an edge in. So seeing my classmates in a fight for their lives, I jumped in. Throwing out a bag of tripping marbles, I shouted, "Scatter!" "Scatter?" V repeated. "Is that supposed to be your attack name?" Amanda pouted at the question. "I'm workshopping it." "Okay, that's fine." V raised her hand in surrender. "I mean, it works as an attack name. At least I guess it does. What is scatter?" Amanda pulled out a hidden bag of little black metal balls. "I toss a bunch of these. They're cast iron and hollow, designed to rust and break down, so no risk of an innocent bystander coming along and slipping on one after a fight." "Wow, clever and thoughtful," V said with a smile. Amanda beamed a grin. "I thought so too, though they are a bit costly. More than a regular ball bearing, but worth it." With that edge the battle shifted. Where Frank and Ishtar were holding their own before, now they were overwhelming the enemy. Frank kept cutting them, and Ishtar was blasting any of them that fell down into ash, leaving perfect dust piles with no bones or bits. And the things had swords and shields, so I was now confident they weren't people. "Looks like I came in the nick of time," I said when the battle was over. Frank was the one to answer. Wiping the sweat off his face, he said, "You sure did. We were starting to get tired. What brings you into the city?" "Can't a gal just enjoy the city life without needing more?" I asked, already deciding to cancel my movie plans. Ishtar spoke up to that. "No! No one can enjoy this damned city without being damned themselves." "Oh, come on, man," Frank pleaded. "I'm from a small village myself, but the city's been good to us." "Bah!" was Ishtar's response. Frank accepted that and looked back to me with an extended hand. "Amanda, was it?" "Francis Paris. Call me Frank." I took his hand and he introduced Ishtar. Ishtar just bowed his head, and I curtsied. "So what are you two doing out here?" "Well, it's a bit complicated, but I'm on a quest." Frank sighed, and with a tone of annoyance explained, "I woke up this morning hoping to have a fun day with my team, and found a dove tapping on my window, which would have been weird, but it was pink, which meant it was from my mother, Aphrodite. Apparently, someone stole a bottle of her perfume, and now I have to go find it." "Sounds simple enough," was my response. I didn't think nothing of it, but that seemed to flip a switch in Frank, because he blew up. "Cette mère!" Frank shouted to the sky. "I've barely spoken to her my whole life, and then she shows up one day and demands I uproot my whole life to come to the city? Now she's just ordering me around through carrier pigeon. My mom's a bitch." Now, you've probably picked up that I often speak without thinking, just small statements that seem to expand past what I intended. And this was another one of those times, because all I said after that was, "Wow, I agree." Frank looked at me like he wanted to kill me and just pointed a finger. "Hey, do not talk about my mom like that." I was stunned by this, as I saw Ishtar rub his cheek. "Trust me, that is not a wise thing to do." "Do you think he would have attacked you?" V asked. "Even though you're a girl?" Amanda nodded. "Oh yes. Probably not harshly and definitely not to kill. But Frank is an old school country boy. He won't let tradition be an excuse to bad talk his mother. Ishtar is the same way." "I'm aware," V said, looking for 2 new files. "What about you?" Amanda tilted her head. "What about me? How tolerant are you to insults of family?" "I would kill anyone who disrespected my family." "Oh." V was taken aback by that. "Just like that?" Amanda tissed and waved a finger. "Oh no, I'm too small and weak for sudden violence. I would bide my time and wait for a chance to strike. Maybe have it look like an accident. Wouldn't have to wait too long with my luck." "I thought you couldn't cause bad luck." "Not directly, but one man's blessing is another man's curse." Now back to the story. After our little exchange, I offered to help them. "And why should we accept?" Ishtar asked with suspicion. "Because with me you become 3, I explained, and 3 is a powerful number." "She's got a point," Frank said. "Good things come in 3s in the Greek business." "Indeed." Ishtar smoothed his mustache. "But how do we know we can trust her?" "Can we trust you?" Frank asked me directly. "Probably not," I answered, and then asked him, "But who can you trust?" Frank thought for a moment before donning his goofy smile and offered his hand. "Makes sense to me. Welcome aboard." "What?" Ishtar shouted. "That makes no sense." "Sure it does. Think about it. She has no reason to help us, but she doesn't lie. So we can trust her." Ishtar just stared with burning disbelief at Frank. "I can officially believe you grew up in a swamp. Genial! Welcome to the team, Amanda." He offered his hand again, and I took it. After that, it was mostly Ishtar doing detective work while Frank and I kept guard. We fought a few more gangs of what Frank called shades, and eventually found the pawn shop where the perfume was. We bought it and completed the quest. What? How? V asked. How what? How everything. How did Ishtar track the clues? How did you fight off the shades? How much did the perfume cost? And were you able to afford it? Amanda counted off on her fingers. I have no idea. Ishtar handled all of that. Teamwork, but mostly Frank handled it. And it took every dime we had between us, plus a quarter I found just outside. A quarter? Amanda nodded. The shopkeep was very strict. We were 25 cents short, and he would not sell. But then I luckily found a quarter just outside. So I was basically the hero of the day. I see. V rubbed her chin. You have an unusual style of storytelling. Amanda shrugged. Well, my specialty is gossip. It's known for skipping the unimportant bits. I suppose so, V said. I bet you have quite the trove of gossip. Amanda giggled. Oh no, not at all. Just a bit more than average. I live a rather active life. Yes, you do. You've become rather popular from what I know. Natural charm. Do you like being popular? I don't hate it. I told you, I have a happy life. I get along with everybody. I want for nothing. I am, objectively, the luckiest girl in the school. And maybe the whole nation. Amanda held her smile as V looked her over before giving a slight grin back. I guess so. But you know, if you ever need someone to talk to about stuff, I'm here. Amanda waved a hand at that. You're sweet, and I do appreciate that. I have my friends and teammates too. But I'll keep your offer in mind. Is there anything else? V thought for a moment before giving in. No, I suppose not. You can leave when you want. Amanda jumped to her feet and curtsied, thanking her for her time. She turned to leave, but just before exiting, she looked and pointed to the coffee machine. By the way, I think your coffee went cold. What? V snapped and looked over and grabbed the pot. The look of disappointment in her face said that it likely had gone cold. Amanda left V to be disappointed and headed to the front of the school. Exiting the building, she saw Jerry waiting for her on the stairs. Jerry was leaning on the stair rails, looking out at nothing. So, how was it? Did she grill you on anything? Amanda skipped down the stairs and spun on the ground. Nope. Just asked me how I was doing, and if I was playing nice with others. Jerry stood straight and started walking as Amanda fell into step. What did you tell her? Amanda walked with exaggerated steps that allowed her to match Jerry's longer stride. Not much of nothing. Just told her a few stories. Mostly about other students on other teams. Jerry smirked at that as they stepped off the school grounds. You think they're trying to recon us? I think it's important to never give away what's not needed. Jerry nodded in agreement to that. Do you want me to walk you home? Oh, come on, Jerry. Amanda jumped in front. Let's go by your place. I love your mom's cooking, and we still have a lot of tactics to talk about. Jerry tisked and shook his head. All right, sure. Mom would love to learn a few more recipes from you, too. Hooray! Amanda cheered, and the two of them walked on in stride, discussing the finer details of the day.